Culture Cast is perhaps one of my favorite telecasts. I'm Patrick Dangle. Through the eyes of Ohio State University Extension programs and students, we get a chance to see how different kinds of people live in our ever-changing world that we live in. And it's my pleasure to present the host of this show, Dustin Homan. Dustin is the program manager, 4-H special programs, special projects with the Ohio State University College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences. Dustin, it is great having you back, and I really look forward to your shows.
Hey, thanks, Patrick. And again, I appreciate that you keep us on. I don't think we're bringing a lot of money in on advertisements, but bringing us back every month. So I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm thankful to all of our viewers. Those that have been watching us and any who are new, you're in for a real treat today. I'm excited to have with me currently a coworker. Sitting next to me is Courtney Fulton. And the viewers may recognize her. I had Courtney on last year. Yeah. Where she talked about her trip to Honduras, and I recently found out that she has been to another country, and a country we haven't talked about, but also the fact that Courtney works down the hall makes it very convenient for her to be our first returning guest on Culture Cast. So that's an honor that is bestowed upon her. I'm really excited about today. The country we're going to talk about is a country from an area of the world that we haven't spent a lot of time in. And just personally here with Ohio 4-H, we have recently been looking at partnering with a youth organization in Ukraine. And the country that Courtney is going to tell us about today is near Ukraine, and kind of relatively the same area. So I'm excited. I'm hopefully going to learn a little bit about some of the culture that maybe I'll get to go visit someday as this relationship with Ukraine starts to grow. So first of all, Courtney, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, excited.
Remind the viewers a little bit about your path, where you are at Ohio State, and where you came from.
Okay. So I'm going into my 5th and final year at Ohio State. I'm an ag communications major, and I'm interning this summer at the 4-H Center with Dustin and working on the skillathons. Where?
Yeah,
okay.
Tell us about where you went.
So today I'm going to be talking about my trip to Slovenia, which was a couple years ago through Campus Crusade, which is a Christian organization on campus. It was a mission trip, and we were there for 6 weeks.
So I'm also excited because, as Courtney mentioned, we tend to focus on these shows. We tend to focus on study abroads that are available specifically within the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences. But youth who are considering coming to Ohio State, we want you to know that there are other opportunities here on campus for you to get plugged in and to be able to travel internationally. I believe our college has about the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. We have about 35 abroads. So if there's a country that's not within that 35 that you want to visit, you may be able to plug into a different organization. And as Courtney mentioned, she was able to visit Slovenia through her involvement with CREW, which is another organization here at Ohio State. So Dwayne, if you'll kick us off with some of our first photos, we'll start with the map of Slovenia, give our viewers a little taste of where this country is. So a small country, you see there highlighted in red. It is about the size of New Jersey, to give viewers a little perspective on how big it is. Population is 1.9 million, which is about the population of the state of Nebraska. So a smaller country. It has a very small coastline, correct, off to its west side. And I guess it's not real close to Ukraine. I had my geography off a little bit, but kind of that same area. So as I mentioned earlier, this is an area we haven't focused on. I always like to show the flag. So our next photo will show you the flag next time you're watching the Olympics. If you've watched Culture Cast, now you'll be able to identify the Slovenia flag. So Courtney, let's jump into this. First of all, why did you choose the Slovenia trip?
So the CREW, the organization that I went with, has opportunities to go abroad to Brazil and Slovenia. I kind of like you, Slovenia was, and Europe in general, an area that I hadn't been to before. And from what I learned through my organization, there was a lot of need there. And I was just really excited to see part of a culture that I hadn't experienced before.
How long were you there?
6 weeks.
For 6 weeks. So Courtney spent a pretty good chunk of time. A lot of the study abroads that we have here, maybe a week, 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So she really got to immerse herself in the culture. Best part about this show is the photos. So Dwayne, let's dig into some of Courtney's photos. She has some phenomenal photos that she took in Slovenia. Some that have made me very thirsty as we were looking through them.
Food is great.
So tell us, Courtney, about this photo, and then how does this connect with the culture?
Yeah. So this was taken at my favorite coffee shop in Slovenia. The way that we started out, basically each day when we were there, was we would go to a coffee shop and read and kind of prepare for the day and talk with each other and with the Slovene students we had met with before. We often went to the coffee shops 2 or 3 times a day, which I loved because I'm a huge coffee fan. And they explained to us while we were there that that's just part of their culture. That's how they interact. They love going and sitting down for a meal or coffee instead of just the drive-through thing that we do sometimes.
I am sensing a trend with Courtney, with you though. You've been to Honduras, which has phenomenal coffee,
Yeah.
and Slovenia. We'll see what country is next.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe one of the coffee-growing regions of Africa might be next on your agenda. Let's go on to the next photo. So on the subject of food, tell us what we see here.
So this is called cevapcici.
What you said.
It's not a thing. It's basically a really fluffy pita bread with a special kind of sausage. And then there's peas, onions, and a red sauce. And it's one of their favorite Balkan dishes. Honestly, one of the best things that I've ever eaten. It was great.
What is the sausage made of? Do you know?
I think it was pork, but I'm not positive.
And would you dip the pita in the sauce and then put like some onion on it?
Yeah, you kind of just put it all together.
And would this be a lunch, dinner, both?
It seemed like typically dinner because it's a little heavier. But there was a little restaurant we went to, and we went 2 or 3 times when we were there because this was everybody's favorite. It was great.
We were looking through these photos earlier, and I asked Courtney if she ate that entire thing. It looks like there's like 8 sausages stuffed into that pita.
I split it.
No judgment if you did. So, kind of, a little different than
Yeah.
a typical meal of like meat and potatoes that you may think of in an American culture. Did you see starches, like the potatoes, built into a lot of their
It
food
seemed
as well?
like, yeah, there was a lot of potatoes and
meat
yeah.
as well?
Just a quick question. Did they have salads also there, like lettuce and different parts of the salad?
They did. A lot of the salads that we had were not really lettuce-based, just a lot of different vegetables together, which I thought was really good because they were some combinations we don't think about all the time, but they had really good fresh sides like that.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is a whole new country for me to learn about.
Yeah.
As I was doing a little research, and some of our viewers may know Slovenia was formerly part of Yugoslavia. And I guess when I think of that area, I tend to think of more an area that's still developing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that sense when you were there? Did you feel like it was a pretty developed nation?
It was very developed, but there were definitely traces where you could see the history and how it's changed a lot. Like there would be really old, intricate buildings similar to Venice that were just beautiful next to a building that looked very Soviet. And it was interesting. You could see those parts of the history throughout the city.
And are they a democracy?
Yes.
Country? Okay. So let's keep going with some of these photos. And I know you've got some photos of the architecture too that'll be fun for us to view. So tell us about this one.
So the city that we spent the majority of our time in was called Ljubljana, and they call Ljubljana the city of the dragons. I'm not entirely sure why, but they have these dragon statues everywhere, and I thought that was pretty unique.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of when I go to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They have on all the street corners. There's probably someone, in Slovenia who's doing a culture cast about Cincinnati, Ohio. So all these pigs statues. I don't know why. So similarly, it's a very unique piece of the culture. So
Yeah.
fascinating. All right, let's go on to. So this one, I saw this photo and I asked Courtney, like, were you okay? Were you safe? But you assured me it was.
Yeah.
You were.
So
what's going on?
we were scared for a second because obviously it looked and sounded like something bad. But this was actually a celebration in the streets after the national team won a soccer game.
And is this the soccer game that you attended?
This was one after.
Okay.
So it was getting into the more intense.
And tell the viewers how you related their soccer fans to fans here.
I was surprised that I thought their soccer fans were more intense than our football fans, which is saying a lot.
It is saying a lot. I mean, it looks like things are burning, people are on cars. The Slovenes know how to party.
Yeah.
Apparently. I'm glad you got to experience something like that too, right? Unexpected, like that's not part of an itinerary, but something obviously that you really remember.
Yeah.
So how did they do this year? Did Slovenia finally win everything, or do you
I'm
know?
not sure this year when we were there they did pretty well. I want to say that I don't think they won the final game, but they came very close. So they were pretty good.
Huh. Very good.
We'll have to look them up and
Yeah.
see if they're in the World Cup for this year. Let's go on to some more of the photos. Tell us about the people that are here with you.
So these are two of the girls that came with us. Our entire group, I think, was about 40. So we had a pretty big group. But this was one Saturday morning. Aside from the time we spent at the universities, we went hiking a lot. And to the Slovenes, they kind of laughed when we told them about this because they said that's the baby mountain. But for us, it felt like a big hike. They are very into hiking. It seems like they go a lot, but it's great.
From what you saw, does most of the terrain look like this?
Yeah, there was a lot of small mountains and then bigger as you get further.
And I would presume more flat as you move towards the coast
Yep.
and the west as well. And so these were two that came with you from OSU?
Yes.
Okay. And then the 40 that went, were they from all other universities?
It was a combination of OSU and Ohio University.
Oh, cool. So everyone from an Ohio institution.
Yeah.
That was that's a fun way to get to meet new people
Yeah.
in a different culture like that. Let's move on to our next photo. There we go. Some of our architecture. Is this one of the castles you were telling us about?
Yeah. So this castle sits right over the city of Ljubljana, which is really cool because you have the city in the typical layout, and there's a big hill towards the back, and the castle just overlooks all of it. So we got to hike up there and see that. But the castles, I was surprised how many were around. It seems like that's a really big part of their history as well.
Did you learn any history behind this castle and its purpose?
Not as much with this one. We took a couple smaller trips to Austria and Italy during those 6 weeks, and there was a castle in Austria that we got to learn a lot about the historical stuff inside.
The short blurb that I read about some of the history of the Slovenia area had said that it was formerly part of the Austria-Hungary Empire. So that would make sense as to why you saw some of these structures that I think if I saw this photo, I would have assumed that maybe you were in Germany or like Austria, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But just beautiful architecture.
Yeah, if I can just add something, the country right next to it, if you were going to the right down, is Croatia. And Croatia, the capital is Dubrovnik. And it's interesting, Dubrovnik was built on a hill, which they have a large castle and walled city. And when they were trying to be attacked by different countries, they would, it's my understanding, pray to Saint Blaise. And Saint Blaise was the patron saint of that area. And, you know, I should have researched it a little bit more, but it is interesting with all the different castles, they protected the people. So I just wanted to throw that in.
So a similar function this castle probably served as the one that you're describing. High enough they could look out and see if someone's coming, if so, enough time for the people to
Yes,
get behind the walls.
yes, yes. And I would imagine that with all the hills and the mountains and the regions, etc., it was probably safe to be in those castles.
Yes, absolutely. So let's move on to our next photo. Is that the ocean photo, I believe? Yeah, I think it's coming through.
Yeah.
So from the coast, I presume.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So this was taken. The city was called Haran. That was our favorite place to visit because the weekend we were allowed to go to different places and explore. And this city, it overlooked a sea, and then across the sea you could see the mountains in Italy,
Oh wow.
which was so cool because it was like the beach and the mountains together.
How far was this place from where you were staying?
It was about, I want to say like an hour or two on the bus, not too far.
Okay. And tell our viewers a little bit more about what you were doing, you know, during the week while you were there.
Yeah, so it was a mission trip, so we were primarily talking to college students, which was really cool for me because we got to see how their universities were set up and how they're similar and different to ours. And it was just a lot of fun to interact with the students and learn more about what their school experience is like.
And you mentioned to me earlier that you were helping them with some English
Yeah,
as well. Talk about the language there. Did you experience barriers?
their language was very tough. A lot of silent letters. So it was really tricky, but luckily the majority of them speak English, so we didn't really need to know too much Slovene. But we did, I have a picture somewhere of, we did some basic vocab and just like training ourselves. This one.
Oh yeah. Dwayne, there's a photo that's showing a projector screen. There we go. Was this a class that you participated in?
This was, yeah, this was, so the organization that we went with, they have full-time staff in Slovenia, so they hosted us and kind of gave us some of the basics. It was kind of funny, the words that stuck out, the words that we memorized the most were the words like, close the door for the bus. So we learned the word for door, and then we learned bill at a restaurant if you need a bill.
The important practical
Yes.
things. We're taking a crash course. I mean, you gotta prioritize, and that stuff makes sense.
Yeah.
Did you get any sense how the language, the Slovene language, related to any of the countries nearby, like
I'm not sure.
Ukrainian, Russian? I know they have Soviet influence, but you didn't get any of that.
I'm not sure. It seems like it's a mix of several different things.
Okay. Just fascinating me as I'm learning that some of those small countries in there are able to communicate, you know, like with the Ukrainians and the Russians, but it's still a different, almost dialect that they speak specifically within Slovenia. So that's just fascinating to
Yeah.
me.
I did find it really interesting that their college students, English was a huge part of their curriculum, so they all could speak really well with us.
Did they teach their courses?
I believe so, at least most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that our school systems don't take advantage as to the other countries where two languages are taught and immersed in that language when you're teaching.
And I found too, when I go abroad and I begin to learn the local language, Courtney mentioned this earlier, they find out you're speaking English and they want to speak English
Yes.
with you. They want to practice. And I'm telling them, no, I want to speak your native language. I want to learn. There's kind of that, tension sometimes when you're traveling abroad trying to learn the language.
And the younger, from what I understand, the younger you are, the more adept you're able to learn, more easily you're able to learn the languages. And unfortunately, we as adults, when we try to learn those languages, it's a lot harder. So that's why immersing students grades 1 through 2, 3, 4, that's the proper time to do it.
Absolutely. There's another photo of the ocean that shows some homes off to the right. There it is. We were just admiring this photo that Courtney took earlier. As she said, it almost looks like a painting.
Yeah.
It's just a gorgeous photo. So are these homes people are living in?
These are shops in Peron for the most part. There might have been some homes sprinkled in there. But this was a big tourist spot. So people would come and go to the beach, and they had boat docks and just lots of shops and fun things to do.
And it almost looks like off in the very distance, some kind of castle.
Yeah, there was another one there.
Structure, probably for protection. Props on this photo.
So you're off the Adriatic Sea, is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of this photo, remind the viewers your major.
Ag communication.
Okay, so that makes sense, right? That's photos. She's putting her major to use. Let's go on to, there's another photo. Courtney's on a boat. Now, this wasn't in Slovenia, right?
Right.
Okay. But you should still, tell us about what you got to do.
Yeah. So this was a day trip in Venice, which was so much fun. And we only had a day there, so of course we had to eat as much as we could, check out the Italian food. But we got to go on a couple different gondola rides, which was really neat because the way that Venice is set up, the waterway looks really wide when you first get there, and then when you get on these smaller boats, you get to go in some of the nooks and crannies that you wouldn't see otherwise.
Are these public transportation there?
Yeah.
So you can just pay to get on one and...
The houses had garages for boats and not cars, so that was really cool.
Yep, I know where I'm moving when I retire. That sounds phenomenal.
It was neat.
But this photo speaks to the fact that when you go to a place like Europe, you're able to go visit, a bunch of different countries. So this was a day trip.
Yeah.
Do you remember how long it took?
Not long at all, probably only a few hours. I was surprised by that too. It was almost like going to another state would be for us. Just
Yeah,
going to another country.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But did you have to show your passport to each country? Or did they just sort of let you through because you're part of the European nation?
We didn't because we were on a bus with a big group and it was already
Oh, okay.
arranged, but...
Huh.
Patrick, I failed to keep track of our time. You have to remind me about how long we have left.
We have about 9 minutes left.
Excellent. Let's get through a couple more of these photos then. Let's go to the next photo. It's a great selfie of Courtney on the gondola. And so tell us about how these boats work. I shouldn't say work, but how are they powered? Most of them have electric motors, gas motors.
They had a person rowing the whole way.
So this one guy is just...
He actually, our gondola driver, for lack of a better term.
Captain.
Yeah. He was really cool, and he told us a lot about his background and how they actually have special schooling type training programs for them to be a gondola operator.
It makes me think about like getting a taxi license here in
Yeah.
Columbus, right? You got to go through this kind of training. Was he from the area?
He was. He said he grew up in Venice.
Let's move on. The next photo, there's a group of girls and they're on a hillside. Yeah, it's a great photo. Who are the people here with you?
So these are mostly Ohio State students and a couple from OU. But these were girls in our group as well. And then this was one of our day trips to Austria. So the mountains were getting a little bit bigger.
Were the hills alive at the sound of the music?
We got to see a lot of the spots where they filmed things, so it was cool.
So how high were you? That you really looked
This one was pretty high. We actually took a like a lift up to the mountain because it would take too long to climb.
Did you show you the Slovenes this photo to prove to them that you got up a higher mountain than the one that they were telling was a bunny hill before?
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
as you think back on your trip, were there any moments where you felt uncomfortable?
Not really that I could think of off the top of my head. It was, I would say, the trickiest thing was when we first landed. We landed in Munich, in Germany, and just that experience at the airport. And there's already so many sounds and things going on in an airport, and when you don't understand the language and what's happening, that was a little overwhelming. And it was my first time going through the international customs. But as far as being in the country itself, they were very welcoming. I was surprised to know where they were.
Did you take ground transportation from Munich?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
I've been, as I've been thinking about these culture cast videos, as I've been rewatching some of them, I love that we highlight some of the best things about the culture and the food and the attractions, but there's also, a lot of times, there's a very real internal battle that goes on when you're in a new culture, you're uncomfortable, you experience discomfort, there's language barriers, and I don't want to minimize those things either. Those are things that you're going to face when you travel abroad, but those are the kind of experiences that once you're able to navigate and work through them, I think that's when you catch the bug, as they say, the travel bug, and you want to do it again. And maybe next time you want to go to a culture where they speak even less English and see if you're able to navigate. So, do you feel that way?
Yeah, definitely. I felt a lot more comfortable. So I went to Slovenia before Honduras, and I felt a lot more comfortable my second time.
Good. You're kind of familiar with things. Well, and in Honduras, going back to my point, probably didn't interact. A lot of people spoke English.
No.
Did you? Yeah. Much fewer than Slovenia?
Yeah.
All right. I think we have a couple more photos left to get through the time that we have together. So, big group photo.
So this was our entire group, OSU and OU students. This was our last day before we went home.
Did you all stay together in some facility?
We were in a hostel together in Slovenia. We took up the whole place. It was like fun.
For your business,
Yeah.
right?
So what was in this building? It looks like it's part of a castle.
This was a castle in Austria.
Huh.
We went to a lot of castles.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned earlier you were really fascinated by the college campus. Was it different? Did it look different? Did you experience different things than, for instance, Ohio State?
So they called what we would call colleges faculties. And so they had them split off into their different areas. But I think I was just surprised by the way that it was set up. A lot of things were closer together. So, especially because I go to Ohio State, I'm used to buildings being so far away. And they had, maybe architecture, for example, everything was very close. It was a very close knit group.
So the students aren't racking up as many steps.
Right.
Do they have like a campus busing facility on their campus? Didn't probably.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
And what about cycling? Is there a lot of bicycles?
There were a lot, yeah.
I think that's more of a kind of a European.
Yeah, they were very environmentally conscious, so there was a lot of those things.
A quick question: the different clothes, if they were to, whatever clothes that they wore, if they were to come to America, would we recognize them, or would they look similar to us?
I think they look pretty similar, I would say. Yeah.
One of the last questions I always like to ask everyone is, why should our viewers add Slovenia to their list of places to travel?
So I was really surprised. Going into this trip, I knew almost nothing about Slovenia, and it seemed like a very random location. Now that I've been there, I feel like it's really a hidden gem in Europe. it's so close to Italy, just so many different countries you can visit, and without all of the chaos. It's very quiet, so you don't have, it feels like your own little pocket. You're not in all the tourist stuff everywhere.
So what's your next place on your list that you'd like to visit?
I would like to go to Africa.
Someplace in Africa?
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool.
I'm going to keep pushing her on.
And the kind of food, what kind of food do you think we would thoroughly enjoy besides the one that you showed us with the pita bread and the sausage?
There's another picture actually. This one was in Austria too, but it was called Wiener Schnitzel. It like a really light breaded pork, and they put jam on top, which sounds really weird, but it was amazing.
And what was it served with?
They had potatoes and I think carrots with it.
Okay.
And what was their drink? Was it wine, water, pop?
Typically water, but you have to be careful asking for water and make sure that you say you want tap water because they do a lot of the carbonated water.
Yes.
Which I didn't like as much.
Found that out when we were in Germany.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Like sparkling or sometimes or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the carbonated, wasn't it just like drinking pop or something, or?
It had a different taste, and it didn't have the flavor of pop, so.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And it looks like in that last photo that Dwayne had up there with the food, are these potatoes that are in there?
Yeah.
So you have like whole
Big
potatoes,
potatoes.
boiled and ready to eat. Wow, interesting. Well, I appreciate you coming back on the show to tell us about Slovenia. I found this fascinating. I was really intrigued by the history of the country, the little bit that I read with it having Soviet influence and being part of Yugoslavia and some of the wars that I went through. And it seems from your photos and what you said that it seems to have come out of all of that.
Yeah.
I guess on the right side,
Yeah.
right? In terms of it being a developed and safe country.
I
I'm
can't.
adding this to my list.
Yeah, I understand. You know, the nice thing is every student that comes back, including you, indicate what nice people they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just fantastic that you get a chance to meet many great people throughout the world.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing what Courtney said. Say again.
I've kept in touch with a lot of them. It's cool because we'll get to Facebook message about what they're doing now, and I made a lot of great friends there.
Just a matter of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
This is why I love travel, and that's one of the reasons that we do this culture cast is to try to give our viewers a little taste of different parts of the world. And everyone that we have interviewed, they've come back in one piece, healthy, raving about the travel. And I know sometimes we tend to only see some of the negative things that are going on in the world, and we miss all of these kind of things in the photos that Courtney showed us. So thank you again
Of course.
for sharing the story and these photos with us, Courtney. And thank you to our viewers. Thank you for joining in. If you're a returning viewer, hopefully we'll see you next month. If you're a new viewer, we also hope that we will see you next month. Patrick, Dwayne, Sarah, thank you for all that you do.
Dustin, Courtney, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.